ready for a Democratic Party that stands.
And that people say is progressive, or somehow they are not centrist, that we got to become centrist. And by centrist, what people seem to mean nowadays is that everybody needs to move over toward that far right. And they have done that deliberately. That was part of a political process called moving the Overton window to make us think that it's normal for there to be masked thugs in the streets throwing people into unmarked vans. That's not normal. That's radical.
Hey, Sydney, what do you drive and how much do you pay for car insurance?
2018 Ford F-150. I was paying $189, but now I'm down to $49 for full coverage.
2014 Ram 1500, lowered from.
And that people say is progressive, or somehow they are not centrist, that we got to become centrist. And by centrist, what people seem to mean nowadays is that everybody needs to move over toward.
Do you think President Zelensky is winning right now?
Well, he's doing pretty well. Look, no matter how you look at it, he's doing pretty well. He's holding his own, at least. A lot of people dying on both sides, but I think he's doing pretty well.
Can I ask you?
Look, you have to say he's courageous. He's got great equipment, but he's got great men. He's got fighters.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah,
I thought he had no cards.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. There has been a shift in the war in Ukraine. It started slowly, almost imperceptibly, more than a year ago as the Ukrainian military ramped up drone production and brought to bear its incredible capacity for innovation in the face of overwhelming odds. They have been methodically degrading Russia's air defenses. The results are showing. Ukraine, which was supposed to last 3 days if you believed Putin, now has effective control over the land bridge resupplying Crimea. That's an astonishing turn of events. And the professionalism with which they have conducted themselves, let's just say, I wish a Ukrainian was in charge of our Pentagon. Contrast Pete Hegseth's constant bluster about having eliminated Iran's missile platforms and air defenses, even as Iranian missiles rain down on cities across the region and Iranian SAMs continue to threaten American warplanes. But back to Ukraine. They have the cards now, and even Trump can't deny it. On my last trip to Ukraine, I spent a string of nights observing mobile air defense units defending Odessa. The pace of innovation within the Ukrainian military is just mind-blowing. I filed this report alongside Preston Stewart, who joined me for one of these embeds. Preston's an Army vet and one of the best military YouTubers out there.
All right, out here in southern Ukraine, an air defense site with Ken Harbaugh. Ken, you've done this a couple times now. What's different today with this unit than what you've seen in the past?
Well, what's incredible to me is how quickly the technology evolves. I mean, I was with an anti-air defense unit, a mobile air defense unit, just a few months ago. They were operating the Browning 50 cals. I was with the Zu-23 crew. And the last time I was in Ukraine, some of this technology was in development, being tested, and now it's proverbially and literally in the air because lives depend on it. And we saw that tonight. They launched one of their new test drones, and it went downrange. And the other cool thing is the competition between the anti-drone crews,
military,
trying to beat each other to the target. And I guess that sense of competition adds some efficiencies because they're fighting to be the best every night.
One thing that I noticed was we've got four different types of interceptors here tonight. One unit launching 4 different types. So we've got talk about the innovation and the changes that these guys are going through on a constant basis. So it's incredible to see. Ken, thank you so much for setting this up.
You got it.
Those 4 drone types Preston mentions didn't even exist at the beginning of this war. Ukraine has invented, under constant threat of annihilation, an entirely new mode of warfare. I got to see this in action in a field outside Odessa on a night when waves of Russian Shaheeds were headed towards the city.
We're on the outskirts of Odessa again with a mobile air defense team. This one uses drones to knock down the incoming Shaheeds. We got 3 models here, the Levator, the Buson, and the Sting. When they get a target coming inbound in their area of responsibility. They'll be designated a Shahed to take out of the sky, and they'll launch one of these drones against it. One of the interesting things about the way these teams operate is there is a healthy competition between them. The last time I was out with this team, they had a drone in the air that was headed for a Shahed, and another team got to it before they did. But that sense of competition, it really breeds a sense of pride in what they're doing, and they, of course, are all on the same team trying to defend the civilians in the city behind us, Odessa, which gets struck pretty regularly by Russian drones and missiles. Hey, it's Ken with a quick break and a favorite ask. As many of you know, I travel to Ukraine often to report on what's going on there. One of the units that has taken really good care of me is the 34th Coastal Defense Brigade. They have asked for help with a fundraiser to upgrade a motor for one of the boats that conducts evacuations along the Dnipro River. Every dollar helps, and every cent of every dollar goes towards this cause. Valor Media is covering all the admin costs, so you don't have to. Please check out the link below and consider pitching in to support this extraordinary Ukrainian unit. I've seen them in action. Trust me, they've earned it. Appreciate the help. Click the link below. Thanks. Those of you who have followed my reports from Ukraine know that I try to focus on stories of heroism and perseverance. But if that's all I talked about, it wouldn't be right.
You could be approved for $39 per month, full coverage auto insurance. The only catch is that you need to have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years. Drivers.
Sometimes the pictures really don't tell the full story, because if you look behind us, you see, okay, there are a couple hundred people back there, but the truth is, when you make your way over here and you're in a wash of people.
There are thousands of people here, and I'll tell you what, that's with rain, with everything else going on, the fact that it is heightened security just because of the world right now. It's really an awesome crowd, and it's people that want to be here.
Don't believe your eyes. Don't believe your ears. I put on my glasses to get a closer look. The live shot literally behind all those people saying all those things tells a totally different story from the things coming out of their mouths. Hi again, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in the East. Donald Trump's long-awaited Freedom 250 Great American State Fair went off with a whimper this weekend, with what looked like dozens of people showing up for the event, which was plagued with problems, power outages, a shutdown Ferris wheel, extreme weather, and the cancellation of a performance by one of the only artists who stood by Donald Trump, other than Kash Patel's girlfriend, and that was part of Vanilla Ice. Needless to say, the less than stellar reviews of the fair and the viral posts about his itty-bitty little crowds have gotten under Donald Trump's skin in a big way. Donald Trump posted this response on Truth Social, quote, "Do you think people appreciate what a fantastic job we did in building and operating the Great American State Fair at the National Mall packed with happy people?" Oh my God, I can't believe I'm reading this. And everybody loving it. The president went on, "Ask yourself the simple question." The president of the United States switched to all caps. Quote, "Do you think that Obama or Sleepy Joe Biden could have done it?" The answer is, in Trump's post, no. The answer was like Obama did it last week at the opening of the Obama Center. But I guess in this case, Trump has a point. Obama has never in his life, like if Obama's motorcades draw bigger crowds for OTRs, trips that aren't even announced. But it was all part of a weekend that did little to turn around Donald Trump's political fortunes and dispel the belief among Americans that Trump is obsessed on himself and his vanity projects, more so than he is on the concerns of the American people or his own coalition, who are screaming at the top of their lungs about the economy and about a very unpopular war in Iran. As the deal to end that war with Iran, one of the main drivers of Trump's cost of living crisis all but collapsed, Trump appeared to be more focused on the national monuments / golf course tour. There's now a golf course on the agenda, and his apparent plan to plant 47 trees in his own honor, like in honor of him, according to new reporting in the Washington Post. And if you thought it couldn't get any worse, Vice President J.D. Vance bailed he wasn't around to pick up any of the slack or absorb any of the embarrassment, saying, "Oh, they rejected me, not you, Donald." He was promoting his book. He was on a book tour. This is all real. Donald Trump and his administration embarrassing themselves and our country by doubling and tripling down on self-aggrandizement as Americans can't afford to pay their bills and fill up their tanks with gas. It's where we start the hour with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. Scott MacFarlane's here. He's the chief Washington correspondent for Midas Touch, also joining us. Hi again, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in the East. Donald Trump's long-awaited Freedom 250 Great American State Fair went off with a whimper this weekend, with what looked like dozens of people showing up for the event, which was plagued with problems, power outages, a shutdown Ferris wheel, extreme weather, and the cancellation of a performance by one of the only artists who stood by Donald Trump, other than Kash Patel's girlfriend, and that was part of Vanilla Ice. Needless to say, the less than stellar reviews of the fair and the viral posts about his itty-bitty little crowds have gotten under Donald Trump's skin in a big way. Donald Trump posted this response on Truth Social, quote, "Do you think people appreciate what a fantastic job we did in building and operating the Great American State Fair at the National Mall packed with happy people?" Oh my God, I can't believe I'm reading this. And everybody loving it. The president went on, "Ask yourself the simple question." The president of the United States switched to all caps. Quote, "Do you think that Obama or Sleepy Joe Biden could have done it?" The answer is, in Trump's post, no. The answer was like Obama did it last week at the opening of the Obama Center. But I guess in this case, Trump has a point. Obama has never in his life, like if Obama's motorcades draw bigger crowds for OTRs, trips that aren't even announced. But it was all part of a weekend that did little to turn around Donald Trump's political fortunes and dispel the belief among Americans that Trump is obsessed on himself and his vanity projects, more so than he is on the concerns of the American people or his own coalition, who are screaming at the top of their lungs about the economy and about a very unpopular war in Iran. As the deal to end that war with Iran, one of the main drivers of Trump's cost of living crisis all but collapsed, Trump appeared to be more focused on the national monuments / golf course tour. There's now a golf course on the agenda, and his apparent plan to plant 47 trees in his own honor, like in honor of him, according to new reporting in the Washington Post. And if you thought it couldn't get any worse, Vice President J.D. Vance bailed. He wasn't around to pick up any of the slack or absorb any of the embarrassment, saying, "Oh, they rejected me, not you, Donald." He was promoting his book. He was on a book tour. This is all real. Donald Trump and his administration embarrassing themselves and our country by doubling and tripling down on self-aggrandizement as Americans can't afford to pay their bills and fill up their tanks with gas. It's where we start the hour with some of our most favorite reporters and friends. Scott MacFarlane's here. He's the chief Washington correspondent for Midas Touch, also joining us. New York Times investigative reporter David Fahrenthold is back with us. And Puck News senior political columnist and national affairs analyst John Heilman is here. Heilman, I'll start with you for some framing on this. Like, it doesn't read as real. I read this and I like, is this AI? Is this really what they're doing? And I thought about the book that I know you and I have been through, the regime change reporting, where one of the closest people to Donald Trump is this woman, Natalie Harp, who helps create this altered reality for Donald Trump. But what is the issue here, where like he actually thinks that it's his job to make up lies about the reflecting pool, put on at taxpayer expense sparsely attended celebrations that are so politically poisoned, no normal people want to be a part of them, and build things in his own honor when he couldn't even line a frickin' pond?
808s knocking like the speakers in a race. All gas, no brakes. I was born to take the throne from the park.
Imagine breathing freely, confidently, and without interruption no matter where life takes you. With the Inogen Rogue 6, that freedom is now a reality. Designed for those who refuse to let oxygen therapy limit their lives.
You always give me the good questions, Nicole, where it involves like some combination of speculation, psychoanalysis, and a tiny little bit of political analysis. I think Natalie Harp
that's perfect for you.
Is the I totally agree. This is why I come on the show, because it's like, right, that's my strike zone right there. It's a very small strike zone, but that's my strike zone. I keep thinking about the fact that, you made this point about how Obama did exactly, have brought out, U2 and Bruce Springsteen and all these people to play, Stevie Wonder to play in Chicago last week. And you can't really blame Trump for not knowing about that, right? I mean, you can't blame him. Because I don't think he knows about it. Don't you think that's the deal? It's like
such
Natalie
a good
Harp
point.
is not.
She turned off all the TVs. Don't unplug the cable.
They're not on the networks he watches. Yeah. He's watching other networks. And Natalie Hart, the human fax machine, the human printer, is not printing out stories to please the boss about, hey, look at Barack Obama's lineup, right? I think I think the bubble of delusion. I mean, look, you and I both think that Trump's mental acuity is declining pretty precipitously. We also think he has various kind of psychic things that I'm not qualified to diagnose seriously, but has various kinds of syndromes and pathologies that in combination with the information bubble that a lot of presidents do get into, right, where they lose touch with what's really going on out there. And I think that combination is part of what explains the other things you're talking about that are more serious things, right? Because the reality is that we did on this show a few weeks ago when Trump had the drawings of the Golden Ballroom, right, that was replacing the East Wing. And the most amazing thing about those drawings was not the drawings, was that he had them on his lap and he had invited reporters in
holding them
to
up,
boast about them, as if he didn't understand that it was politically toxic. And the Donald Trump of 2015, 2016, that Donald Trump wouldn't have been like that, right? I mean, Donald Trump knew his base, knew what working class voters, he had a fingertip feel for what voters wanted. That's why he won in 2016. And he still even had it to some extent in 2024. Again, you can dislike him all you want. There's plenty of room for that. But he had a fingertip feel for what millions of Americans wanted. I think the fact that he has lost that is illustrated in 100 different examples. This last weekend was one of them. The Golden Ballroom boasting about these pictures as if like somehow this was the thing that was going to heal him politically is another sign that, again, he's in a profound bubble, somewhat self-created, somewhat I think the product of his own mind, somewhat the product of the circumstances in which the velvet prison that he's built around himself, and people like Natalie Harp, who knows if she actually ever gave him a representative bunch of what the news coverage was, she would be fired if not imprisoned, right? And whatever kinds of cognitive decline he's suffering is the kind of magic admixture that has led to this period that, and I got to tell you, you got to stop saying this thing about how you check to see if it's AI. The rule now, Nicole, like with Jonathan Swan and Maggie Haberman, who said, when the White House says something, our presumption is they're lying until proven otherwise. I think you have to presume that the most ridiculous things that you see, that those things are real until they're proven to be AI, as opposed to the other way around. Because that is just what we're seeing over and over again. I mean, the more ludicrous it is, the more likely it's true.
Yeah, I mean, and look, David, I mean, the Times had some phenomenal reporting. We had Luke Broadwater on at the end of the week on Friday. His byline was one of the bylines on it. I mean, we don't even know how much redecorating of the White House and the monuments and the mall that's planned. But I don't say it facetiously. Like, he could not adequately source a bid to effectively and successfully line the reflecting pool. And we think he's going to build an arch through which cars will drive. I mean, that's insane. That is absolute insanity. And I wonder if we are really so devoid of checks and balances on the public safety side that he's just going to bulldoze all of D.C.
Well, there's two interesting things at work here. One is that, every president in their second term gets frustrated with their inability to change things domestically. They move to foreign policy where they have more a free hand. Trump did that, and it worked in Venezuela. It didn't work in Iran. Now he's taken another step inward, which is he's going to try to change the things within like 3 miles of his house, where he does have more and he has a very pliant Interior Department, that there are less checks and balances to stop him from doing things on the mall. But there's something really interesting at work here, which is that the things that Trump wants done the most are often, in this case, the things that are done the least well. And the reflecting pool is a great example of that. The Great American State Fair, where I just came back from, is another example of that, because they get handed out as no-bid contracts, or they get given to allies or toadies or yes men, and they just do it.
So this is what it is. They shut that other channel down. Can't get it back. We gotta get monetized on this channel. Last couple of days, I've been doing a lot of running around, fishing with the kids and all that stuff. But I'm about to be consistent again with the early morning joints. People like to wake up to the news. And we're gonna run this shit, man. Straight like that. This is not gonna be in a couple weeks to a couple months. We'll be back monetized. We just gotta keep on pushing.
Fast and don't ask any questions, don't do any of their own independent thinking. They just want to rush to please Trump and do exactly what he said. And it comes back to bite him. It came back to bite him at the reflecting pool. It's now coming back to bite him at the Great American State Fair, that nobody underneath him feels like it's to their advantage to take 2 seconds to think about what he said, to push back, to offer alternatives, to even seek competing bids. They just want to go as fast as they can. And you see how quickly it turns into them stepping on a rake.
I mean, Scott McFarland, there is a really sort of macabre apples to apples that you can draw. I remember during COVID, he wanted to have a rally. I think it was in Tulsa, and there were COVID restrictions in place. He wanted them all overridden. His staff was forced to pack an indoor arena. Allies became extremely ill after that event. But because he wanted the room packed, and because he had a sense that looking like his events were sparsely attended, even in the throes of the deadly COVID pandemic, the arena was packed. He has the same insatiable appetite to be feted, and there was nobody there. I mean, what does this say about the people around him and their impotence?
It was indeed Oklahoma in 2020 where that happened. And his fixation on crowd size has been one consistent portion of the Trump presidency, 1.0 and 2.0. And I feel like all of this was doomed to fail at the Great American State Fair the second Milli Vanilli canceled. Only bad things happen when Milli Vanilli cancels on you. It is going to be a chapter of the story of Trump that's titled...
Look, man, Milli Vanilli. They were just happy to get a damn call. Vanilla Ice, he ain't done nothing. Vanilla Ice cancel on you, there's no way you can win a vote, period.
Milli Vanilli canceled on Trump, but he persevered.
Yes.
Here's the thing, Nicole. I've got an official document here. I've got a Post-it note that lists all the important dates coming up soon on Trump vanity projects. It's put up or shut up time, July 8th. He's going to be in court, or his Department of Justice will be in court on the slush fund. July 9th. The Department of Justice, Nicole, on July 9th has to...
I hear that. He's going to be in court. What does that suggest? He got some issues going on legally. And this is not the first time, MAGA. So let's get down to business. Let's listen.
She put on paper what it says people did at the reflecting pool. That's the deadline to charge people either with minor water touching or some type of felonious box cutter assault. Then mid-July, he's got to answer for the tarp on the Kennedy Center. The judge wants to know why the tarp is still up there when the tarp's coming down. There's an Epstein file deadline this week. Todd Blanche is testifying. All this stuff is going to come back up again and again. It's Vanity Project month in July, with or without Milli Vanilli.
Garbage.
They called him trash and made him beg at a birthday party for $1 million. He smiled and bought the billion-dollar company their whole family.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. The Supreme Court waited until the very last day of its term, the last day of June, to drop its decision in the biggest case of the year. A case in which the Trump administration was seeking to obliterate the constitutional order that our country erected after the bloodshed of the Civil War, when we defeated slavery and amended the Constitution to state explicitly that this country was based on the principle that all citizens are equal before the law, and that if you are born here, you are a citizen. No ifs, ands, or buts. That vision of the country is the one that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and the MAGA movement are fundamentally committed to destroying. Openly. They keep saying it. And they made that clear on day one, January 20th, 2025, just minutes after being sworn back in as president, when Trump first signed pardons for all the insurrectionists who had tried to violently overturn a Democratic election 4 years earlier, an election in which he had, by the way, massively lost among non-white voters. And then right after he signed those pardons, Trump signed an order claiming that some natural-born U.S. citizens shouldn't be citizens.
This next order relates to the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States.
Yeah, that's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the court? That one is likely to be found.
Could be. We think we have good grounds, but you could be right. I mean, you'll find out.
Well, today, Trump found out as the Supreme Court ruled that Trump's attempts to undo birthright citizenship are unconstitutional. A 5-4 decision on that question in which all 3 liberal justices joined conservatives, Amy Coney Barrett and Chief Justice John Roberts. Writing for the majority, Roberts stated the 14th Amendment clearly means what it says. Quote, citizenship then and now was the right to have rights, to freely participate in our political community. The framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. We keep that promise today. That was always what the court should have said to the Trump administration. Their case against birthright citizenship was always just an unconstitutional shot in the dark, a bad faith, crankish reading of the 14th Amendment motivated by racism and xenophobia.
The idea that you can have a country where you just set foot on U.S. soil and any child you have gets to be an American citizen and vote in our elections, collect our welfare, sit in our juries, sit in judgment of our fellow men and women is such an outrage to the idea of having a country. It defies the scriptures. I don't know what they're going to do, but here's what I can say. If this country doesn't, one way or another, end birthright citizenship, this country doesn't have a future. Citizenship has to be sacred and precious.
I really struggle to accurately convey just how extreme, how unhinged, and how, frankly, racist that position is. But let me try. Stephen Miller's reading of the 14th Amendment had already been repudiated by the Supreme Court more than a century ago. It's a famous case. It was in 1898, the case of Wong Kim Ark, who was born in the U.S. to Chinese parents. That court then, operating in 1898, said, if you're born in the U.S., you're a U.S. citizen. They looked at the plain text of the law, and they found that. And they handed down that decision, get this, 2 years after upholding racial segregation in Plessy v. Ferguson.
Remember to scan the coin before recycling.
Stay on this video and I'll tell you why Trump just did $1.4 billion in sales and why that's going to put his ass in jail, at the very least impeachment and kicked out of office. So prepare to smile. All right, let's go. Here's the deal. Trump just reported he made $1.4 billion. Now, if Trump's reporting it, I want you to think about this. If Trump is reporting it, because remember, he's the felon because he doesn't report shit at all. He doesn't report. He does not report shit. So all of a sudden, Trump is reporting, well, I made 1.4. You know what that means? You know what that means? That means he made more like 15.8. He doesn't report. That's why he's a felon. He doesn't report, or he overinflates the values of his buildings. So basically, here's the deal. He's reporting that. Why? Because he only wants you to see this much versus this much, okay? And let me tell you how his scam works with these cryptos. First of all, he just got banking privileges to use crypto for the crypto industry, banking privileges, which was like, what the fuck? Okay, I don't know where they came across with that. I don't know what they were thinking, but here's the thing. Got banking privileges. Here's the thing I want you to pay attention to. The actual scam. Where is he making the most money? Through crypto. He's making money through cash and through wire transfers, selling America's services and policies through his sons and his son-in-law, Jared Because I'm telling you right now, his sons, Barron, Donald, Eric, and son-in-law Kushner are going to jail. They're in trouble. They're basically shopping America, and the intelligence community knows. That's why he's trying to fire everybody. The two groups. One of the first groups he's fired, okay, was the watchdog inspectors last year, and then he started firing FBI, CIA, NSA by the thousands. They all know his money. They all know his money, and they're gonna get him. And they're providing information to the subcommittees of Congress. That's why you got to get in November and show the fuck up. It is really important because they're afraid we're gonna get his ass. You heard Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson said they're going to investigate the family. They're going to investigate all of us. Well, why you worried? Why you worried? If you ain't did nothing, why you worried? So here's the thing. They're doing this. They're basically taking their services and anything they want to get paid under the table to countries, to major corporations, and they are paying. Those countries and major corporations are paying money. They're paying money to get services, meaning get gifted contracts, to get policies made. That's why the Supreme Court even ruled against him on tariffs, because they know he's making money. This guy making money on tariffs. And let me explain the tariffs before I do the crypto. The tariffs work like this. Basically, good old Dumpy decided that he was going to make a deal. He's going to work both sides of the group. So he says, I'm going to bring up tariffs. Well, who does that fuck up? That fucks up the importers in America and the exporters in another country. Or that's the main thing that's happening. So basically, each industry, let's say over in China pays him a bag through that crypto to make sure everything's good. I'm going to tell you how he extracts that money in a minute too. And importers here will pay him a bag because they're losing millions, sometimes tens of millions or more. So they're paying him money to make sure he's good. Now, of course, they give him donation money, but that's public money. Donation money, public money. Cash wire transfers are not, and crypto is not. Why is he so early and diligent on reporting 1.4 billion? No. That means.
Hey, y'all, we getting this information out. Double tap that screen. If you a person that's seeking truth, you want to know what's really going on, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. And stuff.
That boy got 15. He got more than 10 times that. Even New York Times talked about his billions of dollars that he's made, and they were like, we know this ain't even close to the number. Here's the thing. I'm trying to tell you that what's happening, and I'm going to tell you, just follow me, where this is going to lead to jail. So here's the thing. They're extracting, they'll go to nation A and say, blah, blah, blah. He could work this policy and get more trade deals. Like the one they got with UAE, where their UAE is going to bring $1 trillion, over 1.4 trillion over to America. Well, Trump gets to decide who gets those contracts. So, of course, the people who get in the contracts to crypto. Or the other way around is deciding that America is going to spend money in such and such country on money. Who gets the contracts? Who gets the contracts over in that country? You see what I'm saying? If they're going to spend that money over there, what did that country do to make sure Trumpy was taken care of? Now, here's how the crypto works. They put money in the crypto, but they loan out and they pull loans out of the crypto and they loan against that asset. And they cover it. They try to make sure nobody sees it. It's all hidden, blah, blah. But the idea is that loans are not taxable. Nobody's loans are taxable. So they get the loan, but their cash flow pays off that loan. Or if their assets grow, their assets will pay off.
Okay, we got a caller. Hello, what's your question?
Okay, so I've been working with this developer for like 8 months now, and my app is still not done.
Off the loan, and they can get another loan because it's more valuable. Refi. You see what I'm saying? Refinance. It's like you would your house. I won't get too tough in the financialese and stuff into this, but I'm telling you, they are making literally tens of billions of dollars off of crypto wire transfers and cash. But here's where the good news comes in, because I know you've been waiting for that. Like, Darren, how they gonna get caught? Well, first of all, I've already leaked it out a little bit. The intelligence community know what's going on. The Congress, Democratic Congress, know what's going on. They got subcommittees they're super quiet about that they're gathering information on right now. That's why Trump and his family and his staff are sitting there meeting in the Situation Room over two things. They're meeting over being investigated, and they're meeting over Epstein, okay? And both can come and stab them in the ass. There are three top things the Trump administration people can go to jail, get fired over: deportations, the corruption.
Summer girly girl, shout out to you in the chat, man. Let's go. Smash that like button, subscribe. Let's get it.
Grifting and Epstein. And the corruption, grifting, and Epstein's are the two ways they're going to get Trumpy. They're going to get him because he done fucked up. The other thing to understand out of this scenario that makes it so unique is that he's done it so openly. He reported in the first quarter 3,700 trades. 3,700, y'all. 3,700 trades he's done through his, financial investor, whatever. But the trades were closely tied to his policies. He put a lot of money into NVIDIA, only for it to go up right after he allowed them to sell chips to China. Okay? He had money in the UFC, which he did on the White House lawn. I mean, this is just straight up corruption in the face. In the face. And this crypto shit, here's the weird thing about it. Let me give you a bombshell on this with the crypto. Years ago, there was this crypto scam guy who got caught by federal authorities. And when I say federal, I'm talking about everything from ATF to FBI and so on. Well, a few of those federal authorities thought, with these tens of millions of dollars, it's crypto. Ain't nobody gonna see this. We're gonna take this over here. And they went to jail too, because most people don't understand it. Crypto means you're locking crypto, your password access to your stuff. But when you trade in that crypto in any way, there's a thing called blockchain. The whole idea in creation of Bitcoin was to keep open ledgers in public so you couldn't hide money. Good old Trump's money is all out there in the tens of millions, I'm telling you. Tens of billions, excuse me, are out there. It ain't 1.4 billion. He made a lot more, okay? And Barron had made 150, 250 million himself with partnerships. Barron, Eric, Don, Jared Kushner are going to jail. Jail.
What y'all thinking? Could they be going to jail?
They're in trouble. They done fucked up. Big time, okay? So what I'm trying to tell you, I want you to get this in your head. That the more he talks about crypto, the more he does crypto deals, the more all of them do it, the closer they get to locked up. They're going to get in trouble. You might say, well, they're rich. Don, somebody will just pardon them. Let's talk about that. Here's the thing. The way the justice system, our justice system is slow as fuck, but it's definite. We talking about years. We ain't talking about it's going to happen on January. We don't want it to happen quick. I said this last year when a lot of people were like, why is this moving too slow? I'm like, no. You want the T's crossed and the I's dotted. And they're in federal trouble. When you're in federal trouble, it's going to come for your ass. And by the time it really comes for them or prosecutes or anything, they're going to be out of office. They got 30 months left. We got 30 months left for this shit. I'm telling you, 30 months. It's about to be a wrap. Here's the other thing to understand, and I keep bringing this up. Don't underestimate the power of the United States of America. What do I mean by that? Over the last 18 months, one of the 6 people fighting for us, I mentioned the intelligence community, but the first one I usually mention is the attorney generals and governors. If they prosecute and go after you, ain't no way that you can get pardoned, because you can't get pardoned from state prosecutions. And somebody said in my YouTube, they said something about, well, what if, can the governor of that state party, and there's no way in the world that they're going to pull that back. Either way, him and the Trump family in major trouble over crypto. It is truly their assets, but it's going to take time. That's the bad news, but it's kind of good news because in all the court cases in the last 18 months, the 80% of them, they've been losing on the lower courts. 99% of the cases are handled by lower courts. Up here, the Supreme Court only handles 1%, and they've kind of made it clear.
Double tap that screen, y'all. Double tap that screen. We need them likes. Let's get them likes up.
They ain't fucking around with two things. Sexual harassment cases, that he got E. Jean Carroll, they just threw that out, and tariffs. He was too mad over tariffs. He tried to work, he's done workarounds with tariffs, but he was too mad. Supreme Court went at him over that.
How to get $48,000 in 24 hours, part 2. There's this new debt program. It allows you to get a loan up to $100,000 with no bank involvement and no credit impact in 24 hours.
He's not going to get away with this. He's not going to be able to take that to Supreme Court. I mean, he's going to try, but it's just not going to end well, y'all.
Is Trump going to jail, man? In the chat right now, type 1 if you think he's going to jail. Type 2 if you think he's not going to jail. Let's go. I want to know what y'all think.
This is his ass. He's in the corner, and he's done over and out. Done. He's gonna be clinging. Nobody knows. Now here's the reality. He ain't gonna be in a real jail. He's gonna be in jail. He's gonna be in some locked up. He can, and so can the whole family. Don will be in the real jail. Eric will be in real jail. Barron will be a little pounding in the ass jail. It was, the prisoners probably think he's adorable. Yeah, we want some Barron. But they're not going to be in a real jail. But they're going to be in jail. They're in trouble. Big trouble. Hang in there. Understand this. Watch my last, 7 or 10. Everybody binge watches my videos because it's like, oh my God, you're the only one talking about this. Yeah, I am. And I don't say that with an ego or nothing. It's just that this is why I even created this platform, because nobody's really talking about it from this perspective. They're too busy saying breaking news, but not going.
Hell with the breaking news. We want to know what the breaking news is. On this channel right here, that's what you're going to get. We're going to get to some people that's going to break it down. We're not going to sit in here and speculate, but all opinions are welcome. MAGA, come on in. Whoever you are, whatever political affiliation you got, force your opinion right here is welcome.
Into perspective about really what that shit that happened just meant. Today, we won birthright citizenship. That means that the Supreme Court is not totally on this guy's side. He lost that. He lost mail-in voting to manipulate the midterms. He lost to that, and in a sense, he lost. Even though he has the
Summer Girly Girl, welcome to the gang. I like how you think.
right to fire independent people, they pull back Federal Reserve chair, so he can't touch the Federal Reserve. Lisa Cook won. He lost. Because here's the thing. You fuck with the Federal Reserve, you can do the same thing, even worse than you did with tariffs. And he's all about that money. Fuck everybody else. That's why he's lying over the crypto, because the crypto money he done got paid, not only through bribery, through other people in crypto, but he's moving a lot of money. So he has his own money invested when he's making policies, both publicly and crypto privately. But again, crypto doesn't mean private. It means they can't access your Bitcoins. I don't know, you heard that story about the guy who lost his password or key or something for the Bitcoin, and it's worth millions now, and he can't even find the computer that it's on or something like that. It was crazy. I'd be searching like a motherfucker for that. I'd be like Jacques Cousteau, deep dive. Where is it at? But here's the thing. This open blockchain is public. They're in trouble. It's a money grab, just like one of them kids who back up the truck into Louis Vuitton, steal all the bags and stuff. Somebody getting caught. Now, everybody ain't getting caught, but somebody getting caught. And that somebody.
It might be a slow process, but it's happening.
It's gonna be the Trump family. They done fucked up. You know you done fucked up. You done fucked up real bad. Y'all hang in there, all right? Just binge watch again. My last 7 or 10 or more videos. You will absolutely, your mouth will be like this. Tell them in the comments, y'all. Their mouth will be like, I don't believe it, because nobody's giving you perspective, okay? And that's what you should be doing.
Here we go. We're
Have
going
a
to a
better
new video. New video, y'all.
This electrician tested 14 neighbors' homes. Every single smart meter overcharged up to 80% per month. Here's what he did next. If you have a smart meter on the side of your house, you are being charged for electricity.
Stay on this video, I'll tell you.
See, one thing about this YouTuber right here, he's going to tell you what's going on. So I ain't going to just feed y'all MSNBC and all that bogusness. We're going to get down to the real business. Let's go. Subscribe.
What the Supreme Court decisions really means for liberals, because it's one thing to talk about news, it's another thing to give you context and understand what it means to us in this fight against Trump. So let's go. There have been several decisions that have happened. They just ruled on transgenders, saying that transgender athletes cannot be competing in schools. That's a sad mark. We've had
I don't mean no harm. We'll talk about that later.
Voters' Right Act. There was several weeks ago they ruled against black and brown people. We've had immigration rule against Syrians and the Haitians as far as protective legal status, and they could get shipped out quickly. We've also had a immigration ruling of the fast track deportation that went in Trump's way. And then we had E. Jean Carroll's case being thrown out. They wouldn't even read that. They wouldn't even touch that. And then we had the ruling that Trump can fire independent agencies like the FTC, FDA, but he cannot touch the Federal Reserve. A couple of months ago back, they ruled against tariffs where he was making a lot of money at. And then we had this ruling for the mail-in ballots won by Democracy Forward, who wins 95% of cases, headed by Mark Elias. Forgive me, I always mess up your name. And, you know, saying you can't get rid of mail-in ballots just by, you know, deciding that you're going to executive order or whatever you're going to do and get rid of them. Now, in the lower courts, you also had another one regarding mail-in ballots where a federal judge said, no, basically, you're not going to be able to get rid of mail-in ballots yet again with an executive order. And the interesting part about that ruling is there's still several cases on different approaches the Republicans are trying to do to take mail-in ballots, but for now, it is off the table, both in the lower courts and in the Supreme Court. And then finally, of course, there's the birthright citizenship, which won 6-3. Some people say 5-4, but I say a win is a win. A win is a win. And I know how fragile our government is, especially with the Supreme Court. But understand this, some of the things we didn't win, like his ability to fire people out of independent agencies, can always be written around legislative law with a Democratic majority, just like what they're going to do with the Voters' Rights Act. So what I'm saying to you in all of this is that we are winning, though we have some losses, but what this means for the Supreme Court is this. Supreme Court, excuse me, long day. Supreme Court is, don't give no fucks about black folks, brown folks, and immigrants, okay? Particularly black and brown ones. You know, and African Americans have been telling immigrants for this, people from other countries, including Africans from Africa, Caribbean, we've been telling y'all, they give no fucks about you. And now it's right there in your face. I really wish people would get this, especially black people, whether you're from Caribbean or Africa. The other thing that we have to look at, so they give no fucks. That's what these rulings say. Whether you immigrant or whether you black here don't fucking matter. But what the court does care about.
What's up, guys? My name is Bree Hall, and we're going to do a Get Ready With Me for game days. I love to wear jewelry, and this is one of my favorite everyday necklaces.
Is whether Trump is going to try to bring up his sexual allegation cases. And they're like, we ain't even looking at it. Fuck you. That's going to read into bad news, and I'm going to show you how. Just pay attention. Just keep following me here. But then the third thing we know from this Supreme Court ruling is that they are not letting him grift. They're not letting him do what he wants to do, whether, you know, as far as the tariffs. They're not going to let him do that. Okay, it's not even an option. The other thing is they're not going to let him fuck with the midterms. Okay? The other thing, other than everything I mentioned here, is I just see right now that, yeah, it's a fragile situation with the Supreme Court, but we only got 30 months to go. And I want you to understand what that means when I say 30 months. Basically, Trump, whether he's alive or not, whether J.D. Vance takes over, whatever, this administration ends in 2028. Because we're doing everything we can to tear these motherfuckers down. And the first thing we got to do is get in people for 2027. They already got shit ready to come after them. And if you don't believe me, remember the previous video I just put out talking about, a couple of videos ago, talking about, hey, Mike Johnson saying, hey, they're going to investigate Trump, the whole family. They're going after everybody. And they are. Because they're illegally, they're breaking the law. They're breaking the law. But the good news is the foundation of our Constitution, yada yada Constitution, is holding strong. The foundation of our government is not lost. Please don't think that, because that's not the truth. We have some ebbs and flows. We got some hits, and we're gonna have more. Let's put it like this: it may get worse before it gets better, but it is getting better. Their tyranny on a time clock, 30 months. Tyranny on a time clock. Okay, that's 2.5 years. Trump gone is not going to make this go away. J.D. Vance is going to be a different president, but the same vibration. We are up against an ugly war. I know you're very discouraged, but I want to encourage everybody to step your game up and be able to show up at those polls. More importantly, understand the nuances of what this means as far as his failures. He's not going to be able to grift and corrupt in front of the Supreme Court. He's not going to be able to try to birthright citizenship people out the door. In other words, challenge the Constitution. He is not going to be able to manipulate the midterm elections through the Supreme Court. He's going to try every way he can, but it's just not working in his favor. There's a court case coming up where he's trying to hold back counterterrorism funds from blue states. Counterterrorism funds. And that's, unless they give up voter rolls. And they're like, they're not going to do that. So the whole idea is they're going to go to court over this, and they're going to lose that too. Because they got struck down in the courts too with trying to make a database. He's trying to do everything he can to prevent the midterm elections from being a blue wave in any illegal or legal way possible. And quite frankly, he's losing. It's happening. We just need to show up, and Congress needs to step in, and it sounds like they're ready to step in like big dogs come January 3rd. 120th Congress gets sworn in, okay? So even though it looks bad, there's a lot of good in this. And I want you to look in my last roughly 7 to 10 videos. Go to my homepage, look at my last 7 to 10 videos. You're going to find some serious reasoning within this. There are things we lost back and forth and won in the Supreme Court. But understand, the lower courts we're winning by 80% on in the appeals and in the lower courts. And everything can't go up to the Supreme Court. They can only handle 1%. And this was a major blow with birthright citizenship against him. That was the first executive order he signed. Here's in his presidency of this term. Here's the other thing to understand very clearly.
This record is super scratched. It can't play music, but it could still be art.
The situation that we're in right now is that we do have a ton of people in our favor. You say, no, why didn't anybody do anything? Oh yeah, there's a lot of people doing something. Let me lay it off for you right now. Again, the governors and attorney generals have been suing and winning at 80%, according to Letitia James, Attorney General of New York. We have nonprofits who've been suing. They're the ones who won the mail-in ballot vote and have been winning, and they're the ones who also won the birthright citizenship fight. They're in front. They're in the forefront. Like ACLU, all these other big companies, Democracy for It, they are in the forefront. The third group are the judges themselves, striking things down on the lower courts. They handle 99% of the court cases. Everything can get shopped up back to the Supreme Court. The fourth group is the judges, is the lawyers on pro bono, like Mark Elias of Democracy for It and Democracy Docket. He has his company, as well as Michael Popak, Legal AF, have their companies doing pro bono work, but they got major companies out there doing pro bono work as well. Why? Because they know the law and our democracy is in trouble. Plus, Trump decided to fuck with the law community last year by trying to take on lawyers. Dumb as hell. Dumb as hell. Then we have the fifth group, which is coming in on January 3rd, which is going to be the majority Democratic House and Senate. That's why Trump's freaking out, because he knows it is on. It is on. It is his ass. Once he gets kicked out, understand this, once he gets kicked out, they're going to come at him with everything from Epstein to all of these corruption charges. And I don't mean civil. I mean they're coming for him as the United States government and the states coming after his ass. Okay? And you say, well, J.D. Vance will pardon him. No, we're not talking about this way. They can get him without J.D. Vance pardoning him, because here's the thing: a state convicted criminal can't get pardoned. That's why he's listed as a felon right now through New York. Here's the other thing I want you to understand in this scenario, and that is that we are dealing with a unique situation with the sixth group. I said there were 6 groups. I named all the other 5, right? The sixth group is the intelligence community, which can't stand Trump. The intelligence community is pissed. They've been fired by the thousands. Remember, the second group of people after the inspector general he fired when he got into office was the intelligence community. Why? Because they know where all his money is at. They know all the Epstein shit. They know all the illegalities he's doing. And quite frankly, from what I've been hearing, that people in the private sector, the retired sector, and the active sector are providing data for the subcommittees of the Senate and the House of Representatives. This is happening. It's real. But it just takes time. And here's the thing you got to understand. This is not overnight. People get, well, when is it going to happen? No, you don't want justice fast. Sorry, you really don't. Because here's the thing. If they do it right, dot their I's, cross their T's. I talked about this last year with the legal cases that the governors and attorney generals sued the Trump administration over Elon and Doge. If you dot your I's and cross your T's, it's going to become a shit show for him, for him to get an appeal, because When he loses, he's losing 80% of his appeals because we're doing it the right way, the slow way, going through the process on our side. It's a process. It's a slow one. Our justice system is slow as fuck, but it's definite. And the whole, well, he runs the DOJ don't mean shit. It don't mean shit. Todd Blanche is going to jail. Pam Bondi going to jail. These people have broken the law. They're U.S. attorneys that are going to jail. They have broken major laws and fucked up. And the only way they don't go to jail is if they turn snitch. For real. For real. 70% of that cabinet's in trouble. So stop freaking out and worrying out about things like that. It's going to be okay. We're going to make it through this. Now, all of that said, I want you to hang tight and realize what's going on. Success is a process. This is one of them. We're going to make it through this, okay? Definitely watch my last 7 or 10 videos. Go to my homepage and watch that. You will never hear anybody like this talk about it from this analysis.
Now we got to go help people customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Maybe where's the golf cart?
Major decisions out of the United States Supreme Court today. Now, the biggest is probably the one that didn't capture your attention, but it should. It's the Slaughter decision. Moving forward, the Supreme Court pretty much said that the executive, led by convicted felon Donald Trump, can pretty much do whatever he wants to do when it comes to the heads of ostensibly independent federal agencies. Meaning, if he wants to fire them, he can, even without cause. But there's a carve-out. Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, for now, gets to keep her job. The Federal Reserve, getting a carve-out for some reason. Maybe it has to do with money. Maybe it has to do with how the economy is doing. I wanted to dive deep into the decisions today, including the Watson decision that deals with mail-in voting. So I invited our dear friend of the channel and the brilliant legal scholar, Steve Vladeck, to break it all down so we understand the nuance, the meaning, and the import of the decisions from today. Take a listen. Joining me now is the brilliant legal scholar, professor, and all-around great guy, Steve Vladeck, who was kind enough to jump on to be able to record this episode with me. We're both working from not our home bases, Steve, but today's Supreme Court decisions are so necessary to break down so people understand the implications behind them. We're not going to do all of them, but we're going to highlight just a few because they do have just incredible implications moving forward. Very quickly, let's talk about the good news. Watson versus RNC, I think a resounding rejection of Trump and the RNC's attempts to say that federal laws trump the way that states run their own elections and how they count their ballots. Quickly, Steve, your thoughts about how this affects the litigation landscape for elections moving forward.
Yeah, as resounding as any 5-4 decision can be, I guess.
I'll take that extra 5, okay?
So, Katie, you and I had talked, a long time ago about what I had sort of shorthanded as the rule of law majority on the Supreme Court, which I'd always viewed as the Chief Justice, Justice Barrett, and the 3 Democratic appointees. And here is perhaps the first major merits case in which we've seen that majority surface. So I think 2 things are true about the ruling. The first is its immediate impact really is, I think, just going to be about this particular question. So, the states that allow voters to cast mail-in ballots up to Election Day and still have them counted if they're received within 3-4 days, et cetera, that can go ahead. And that's just preserving the status quo. I do think that if not the substance of Justice Barrett's opinion, at least the sort of gist of it will also embolden challenges to other efforts to mess with voting, some of which are underway. I mean, so the lawsuits that are already being filed challenging what the U.S. Postal Service is threatening to do with regard to states that won't turn over their voter rolls. This doesn't affect the merits of those lawsuits, Katie, but I do think it puts a little more wind at the backs of the plaintiffs in those cases, because it shows that there is a majority on the Supreme Court that's not going to be especially excited about messing with how people vote.
Steve, were you surprised to see that it was Justice Amy Coney Barrett who issued the majority in this case?
No, because It's funny, Katie, my good friend John Fritzy is the CNN correspondent who covers the court most closely. And the only case John and I disagreed about this term, sort of how it was going to go based on the oral argument, was Watson. John thought it was going to go the other way with good reason. I think the reason why this was Barrett was because she was probably the median. And I think, the chief assigned it to her because her vote was the most important one. Back to a narrative we've seen before about, Barrett as the median vote in some of these cases. That didn't hold in any of the other decisions today, but I think this was an example of that.
Do you think that we were able to eke out this 5-4 win because, number one, it was specific to Mississippi and other similarly situated states? It wasn't some type of federal law, for example, that was at issue that the Republicans or the more conservatives would want to protect. And number two, to your point, it speaks only to the timing of ballots and not kind of to some of the bigger election issues.
Right. It's not about who can vote. And it's not about like congressional districts. So, yeah, I think that's part of it. And Katie, frankly, this was a crazy argument. The notion that the fact that Congress has set election day as the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November somehow means you can only vote on election day was never a especially persuasive argument. And all the more so when the challengers abandoned the argument that would also mean early voting was preempted by federal law. And so, I think what we're seeing is Barrett and the chief actually being, dare I say, somewhat principled on a question that, as we see from the fact that it was 5-4, could easily have gone the other way.
I don't know. I feel like it was the throwing of a bone type of energy, end of term, about to go on summer recess, especially from your Chief Justice.
I think that's coming tomorrow. I think that the bone is birthright citizenship, and it's coming tomorrow.
What, they're going to do a self-congratulatory victory lap, patting themselves on the back by respecting the Constitution on their way out? Is that your prediction, Steve?
That is my prediction, because they did a heck of a lot of violence to the Constitution in the next case we're going to talk about.
Which is why I wanted to make sure we reserve the bulk of our time, counselor, to be able to talk about that. Okay, so I'm going to call this the other part of the good news of today, but tempered with the horrific news that also occurred simultaneously. And
Total Battle. Play now for free.
If you're paying more than $42 a month for home insurance, you're getting ripped off. Here's how to fix it. I didn't know I was overpaying on my home insurance until my friend sent me.
Donald Trump was having a psychotic meltdown all last night. He was making post after post like this, promising disaster relief for natural disasters back in 2024. For example, he posted to Governor Brian Kemp of Georgia for Hurricane Helene disaster relief. We're going to give the great state of Georgia $318.3 million. Then he says to the great state of Michigan, we're going to give you $32.1 million. He says to the great state of Wisconsin, MAGA Republican Congressmember Tom Tiffany has convinced me to give you $22.6 million. To the great state of Florida, I'm going to give you $415.9 million for disaster relief. It was post after post like that of Donald Trump saying, I'm going to give this state money for disaster relief and that state disaster relief money. Why? Because one of the things we learned yesterday in more detail than we ever got before, because Trump had to produce his financial disclosures from 2025, is the extent of his grift. The number of financial side deals the Trump family is running is so shocking sometimes that it quite literally shocks your conscience and says, is this real? And it is. So the Trump organization made about $2.29 billion in crypto schemes in 2025 alone, according to Donald Trump's 2025 disclosures, which were just released on June 30th of 2026. You know how investors did on those crypto schemes? Well, they lost $2.28 billion. When you actually look at Donald Trump's personal net worth increase from just the crypto schemes alone, Donald Trump extracted $1.1 billion added to his net worth, liquid cash to Donald Trump, divided as follows. $635.1 million Trump made off his meme coin royalties, $236.3 million for the World Liberty Financial token sales, $196.9 million for sale of ownership interest in the US dollar one stablecoin venture, $65.6 million sale of part of Trump's stake in World Liberty Financial, $6 million for Melania Trump's NFT sales collectible business, $1.82 million for the Ethereum validator. By the way, Trump says, I'm the crypto president. I'm the Bitcoin president. Like, you all know that like crypto and Bitcoin has completely crashed under this Trump regime. By saying he's the crypto president, he means he's going to steal all of the money for himself and take all of the money for himself and leave everybody else holding the bag. He pulls the rug from underneath you. That's what we said. He was a rug pulling president is one of the first things that we said. So why was Donald Trump up at midnight doing, I'm going to give $459 million. I'm going to give $300 million, because in his mind, it counteracted all of this other money that he was making. And if you just flood the zone with numbers, people just get confused. I'll show you some other charts right here. Look at World Liberty Financial, the crypto venture for Don Jr., Eric Trump, Steve Witkoff, who nobody appointed to be America's envoy to anything, yet he's America's envoy to everything, and he's screwed up everything, this scumbag. His sons, Zach and Alex, netted a fortune for both families of at least $1.1 billion from World Liberty Financial. You know what's happening while all of that's going down? Let's take a look at the U.S. debt. Look at this chart right here. The national debt is rising. Oh, but didn't you say that Doge was going to be so dang effective that we were all going to get Doge dividend checks and our debt was going to decrease and our deficit was going to shrink? Didn't you make all of those promises? Oh, wait, you're the same fraud scumbags who made $2.29 billion off crypto schemes while your investors made $2.28 billion. Or on World Liberty Financial, where your investors lost 76% while you all made $1.1 billion. Yeah, you know how people talk about that K-shape economy? Don't these graphs look a little bit like those K-shape? And in fact, you know, the United States citizens, the United States people, Americans, and frankly, people of the world, yeah, they're the people who are getting dumped in the Trump MAGA pump and dump right here. Take a look right over here at this chart as well. If you want to look at the crack spreads between the price of crude and the price of gasoline right now, you know, the refiners, they don't really buy into the price of crude right now, quite literally being as low as it is. They probably think that the Treasury Secretary Besson is pulling a short ring right now. And so you see some of the biggest spreads ever, and that's why the price of gas is not going down. Look at the Strait of Hormuz. Like, let's ignore the hyperbole, let's ignore the propaganda, and let's see, are any ships going through the Oman route or that US route, or are they all going through the IRGC route? Oh, the IRGC route. Are a lot of the ships mostly aligned with Iran? Yes. Is Iran getting out 50 million barrels of oil? Yes. Let's just look at the reality of what's actually going down right now. And you want to talk numbers? You want to know why Donald Trump frantically was posting, I'm going to give this state disaster. Why wouldn't you give the disaster relief the way former President Biden was in real time? Now you're giving it in June 30th after sending denial after denial to all of these states who desperately needed it. And by this point had to go and tap into basically all of their other resources in order to just try to stay afloat. But look at some of these other numbers right here. Funding for Trump's construction spree. Remember when Donald Trump said, my rich friends and I, we're going to pay for the ballroom. We're going to pay for all of these things in DC. Well, they've turned DC into a freaking junkyard. It looks absolutely disgusting right now. And the taxpayers are paying for it. You know, the ballroom? Yeah, the underground area, $400 million being paid by the taxpayers. The above ground area of the ballroom that he said that, the bunker, $400 million or more, maybe even $1 billion. The upper area of the ballroom that Trump said all of his rich friends are going to pay for? No, it was a no-bid contract that was routed through some obscure entity within the White House that was created for like minor repairs of like
Never rush to sue the other driver after a car accident. There may be a much smarter way to get paid a much
dense and like little things to fix. Well, that's what the Trump regime is saying. Oh, well, this is like a little thing to fix. So what we're going to do is do no bid contracts because this little entity in the White House, obviously you didn't need to do a bid contract if it was like a $500 repair for a doorknob, right? It wouldn't make sense that you have to go out and bid for a $400 doorknob. So the Trump regime, the way they get around the requirement that you do contracts of competitive bidding is they go, nah, the $500 million we're going to steal from the people watching this video, it's like the doorknob. We're just going to take it. No bid contract to Donald Trump's buds and his friends. So yeah, about $1 billion on ballrooms, $250 million for Kennedy Center, $16 million as of now, and that number is increasing for the reflecting pool. I mean, billions and billions. Changing the name of the Defense Department to the War Department, $150 million. That's $1.5 trillion to drop bombs on little girls and commit genocide and massacres that no American except sickos want to see happen. That's what the Trump regime is doing. You know, Donald Trump's up there panicking as well because not just are the horrors being uncovered about his grift, his fraud, his personal Ponzi schemes, how he's made billions and screwed us. Folks, this is beyond impeachable. Dude should be in jail for the rest of his freaking life for all this. He should have been in jail for all of the crimes he committed before being in office, but I don't know how anybody watches. Well, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, he's the president, he's a businessman. You're supposed to be a public servant. You're supposed to serve. You use the White House as a quid pro quo to steal our money, our taxpayer money to enrich yourself. Honestly, what a shithead. I mean, what a horrible freaking human being. It just makes me absolutely livid. And also the Wall Street Journal reported last night that there's basically a complete breakage, a complete rupture in the relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia. Obviously, that's why Rubio, when he was in the Middle East, did not visit Saudi Arabia. MBS doesn't, you know, I mean, to some extent, they're stuck a little bit with some of the legacy America stuff, but we're learning more about how this rupture really formed in the biggest way. So the Trump regime announces back in May they were going to escalate the invasion of Iran with something called Project Freedom. And without asking Saudi Arabia, they just start basically showing up and saying, all right, we're using the air bases there. We're going to Saudi Arabia, your airspace, your air bases. Where are you? Saudi Arabia like, nah, we're not doing that. We're not going back to war. Nope. Saudi Arabia's like, we're cutting deals with Iran. Okay. We're going to do a deal with Iran that we're going to broker a de-escalation understanding. We're going to broker it through Pakistan, and Pakistan brokered this between Saudi Arabia and Iran. We're going to become neutral with Iran or allied with Iran. And so that's what Saudi Arabia has done. And actually, that's what a lot of Middle East countries have done right now. So as the Wall Street Journal also reported that the Trump regime is saying that they're considering options to escalate for a ground invasion of Iran. And you have J.D. Vance saying, oh, you know what, this MOU is really just a temporary period at this point where we are going to just test them. We still have a lot of games we want to play with Iran. That's what J.D. Vance, remember the video I did? We have a lot of games we want to play. We still have got a lot of cards that we want to play. We will see. We don't, the American people don't want to see. We don't want to play games. But regardless, most Middle East countries at this point want nothing to do with American military presence. And I think if we were to invade again, you'll see most of these Middle East countries saying, you're not going to use our airspace. You're not going to use our air bases. You could try to threaten us or do whatever you want. All the United States has done is they've pushed all of these countries to be closer to Iran. They moved them away from the United States. And basically, it's Trump and Netanyahu right now. And we know from day one of all of this, Netanyahu just wants to continue to warmonger and invade. And he said, I'm not leaving Lebanon. I'm not leaving Syria. I'm not leaving Gaza. That's what the Netanyahu regime has been saying over and over. He was in Lebanon, like flaunting that he was there yesterday. And he wants to bring the United States back into war. And we, the people, have to say enough. We don't want to be in this war. This has no longer. And they're mocking him. It's called autism capital. They go, the first crypto president means he makes billions of dollars and you lose 90% in the bear market. Thanks for playing, because that's where the crypto market is right now. And then Donald Trump leaves saying, big news, everybody. For the first time ever, we're doing a midterm convention in
All right, Pitt, I'm on the clock right now. What's going on, folks? Glad y'all joined. Glad y'all stopped through. Pitt, hope everything worked out with the mod thing. I mean, we building from ground zero, man. So we're gonna continue to push the news, push the truth, and we're gonna try to do it in a way that don't violate nothing. But hey, man, I can't promise you nothing. I don't even know what's the word, but I see what's going on. But back to the goddamn situation. Hey, one thing you cannot believe is that everything that you see and hear out of a person that lies about everything, you can't believe everything. So notice that the people, we definitely going to get into the bullshit, but we also going to bring some people through here that's going to tell you what's really going on. So stay tuned.
Dallas. It's going to be a rally like no other. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. Like if you thought the Great American State Fair was amazing. I mean, you all have seen the videos of how great
that shit was garbage.
The Great American State Fair is. Have you ever seen? There's 200,000 people. Someone from the Trump regime claimed that there's 150,000 people a day. Did you see that? There was a reporter who was asking, what's your estimate? The Trump regime, I kid you not, 150,000 people a day. It's the stupidest lies. It's the dumbest. The vandals, they took the box cutter and then they started shredding it. And these people, we're not going to tell you who they are, super secret. We have them in CIA dark sites in Guantanamo. We can't tell you who they are, but they shredded it. And the algae is a criminal. It's criminal algae, everybody. You know the criminal. Shut up. Just stop with the stupidity. Grow up. There's so many people who are suffering. Grow the hell up. What are you doing? Who are these? Stocks of weapons. The goal of doing a peace deal is to rearm. Are you stupid? You're saying that out loud, number one. I mean, you realize Iran is watching that also. And what bad fate. You did a peace deal so you can rearm? Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that, JD. Here, play this clip.
So I think what the president has told us to do is use this MOU to sort of refill the world's oil economy, to refill some stocks, and then to see where the hand is.
And then JD goes, this is the end of the beginning. There is a lot more games to play, and there were a lot more cards that we're going to see. What do you think?
See, that's the whole thing. We know this was all games because it was one time where JD was a guy who was completely against Trump. And the fact that Rubio, Vance, all bent the knee in so many words is laughable. And MAGA, you know, they're aligned with this type of thought, which is hilarious. Stand-up individuals they are.
This is a game of like magic. They go those card games you played when you were magic cards. What do you think this is? This is real life. This is war and peace. This is you all Trump regime sickos killing little girls in Manab. This is all of you engaged in horrific war crimes. We got more games to play. This isn't games. These are people's lives. These are people's lives who are dying and starving and being killed because of all of you. And you're out there, these are games. This isn't a game. Who is this? Who are these group of people who behave this way? That's what JD says. Play this clip.
This is the end of the beginning, okay? There is a lot more game to play. And there are a lot more cards that we're going to see, to mix metaphors here. And the good thing about it is that we're served by an administration, we're served by a president of the United States who is constantly trying to figure out how to gain an edge for the American people.
And then JD's like, and here's what I'm so glad is that these signs that were up of people saying, you know, love is love. Those signs piss me off. Take those signs. Signs piss you. Why? Why does that piss you? What are you even talking about? What the hell are these people talking about? How do we let these idiots become you know, who are these idiots for real? Play this clip.
Okay, so we're thankfully, thanks to Donald Trump, I would say, we're past the point where most people, at least that I see, hang out those hideous signs in their yard that say, "In this house we believe blah 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 blah." Love is love, water science is people, science, whatever. No person is illegal. Okay, so that sign is like such a.
Can you imagine the president or the vice president of the United States worried about what kind of signs people have in their yard? Because at one time, those signs said Trump. What was the fucking dude name? Trump and Pence. Now Trump and Vance. So why would you, if you was doing what you were supposed to be doing, you know what those signs would say. So cut us loose.
Disgusting butchering of the Nicene Creed.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think about all of this. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the Midas Touch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.
If your doctor has mentioned your BMI more than
we
once,
gotta get
this
through
is why
these.
nothing you have tried has worked.
We gotta pay the bills. But we right back.
Hey everybody, welcome to a very special episode of The Breakdown. I'm Allison Gill, host of the Daily Beans podcast. I'm gonna Rachel Maddow you for a second. I'm gonna take you back to World War II, when a small group of independent journalists known as the Murrow Boys kind of turned the tide on public opinion of the war by bringing the raw, unfiltered reality of it to Allied living rooms around the world. Handpicked by CBS News Radio legend, CBS News Radio I think just closed down, Edward R. Murrow, this small band of independent reporters shaped the narrative of the global conflict in a way that wasn't really being brought to people. And today, we're seeing that same kind of independent journalism shaping the narrative of the Epstein files and the Epstein class, which is one of the biggest stories globally right now. But in order for independent journalists, unbound now by corporate media, to do that job, they need all of the information they're entitled to under the law. Enter Katie Fang, who along with her amazing lawyers filed a pretty novel lawsuit against Todd Blanche in his official capacity as acting attorney general to get the Epstein material she needs to bring the reality of the depravity therein to we the people. And we have some huge breaking news this week because a federal judge named Emmett Sullivan, the same judge, by the way, who pointed at the American flag in his courtroom and called Mike Flynn a traitor to his country and asked Mueller prosecutors whether he could be charged with treason, that judge has granted Katie Fang her preliminary injunction.
Shout out to that judge. I don't know who he is, whatever she just said his name, but shout out to him.
In this case, to get the Epstein files. Now, in order to get a preliminary injunction, a plaintiff has to meet some basic criteria called the Lujan factors, standing, in other words, and jurisdiction. That's named, Lujan factors named after a case dating back, I think, to like the 1900s, 1990. Now, Lujan laid out the factors required for Article 3 standing, and they include, first, that you have to show an injury, in fact. Next, you have to show a sufficient causal connection between the injury and the conduct complained of. Third, you have to show that your injury will be redressed by a decision in your favor and can't be redressed another way. And finally, you as the plaintiff bear that burden of establishing those elements. Now, Katie, among other things, sued Todd Blanche as a journalist, saying she's being harmed by the withholding of information in the Epstein files because she can't do her job without them, and that not being able to do her job financially harms her. It's a pretty novel legal theory. Now, additionally, Todd Blanche argued that the court doesn't have jurisdiction because Katie can simply file a Freedom of Information Act request with the people who are withholding the information to get the stuff.
Also, man, shout out to Katie Fang. She's definitely a trailblazer with this political shit.
That he's now just admitted he is withholding. But the judge in this case, Judge Emmett Sullivan in the D.C. District Court, has granted Katie her preliminary injunction against Todd Blanche, concluding that she does have standing and that the Freedom of Information Act does not provide an adequate remedy because the information she seeks would likely be redacted under the Freedom of Information Act. And here's a quote: "The department's own post-Epstein Act responses to FOIA requests for the Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell files refute Todd Blanche's argument that FOIA provides an adequate remedy." Now, Todd Blanche has been given until July 2nd, a couple days from now, to hand over what Katie has asked for or explain why he's not going to. And today, Katie joins me to discuss the explosive information that Blanche has to answer for on today's episode of The Breakdown. All right, everybody, welcome to The Breakdown. Katie,
Yay.
Congratulations, and to you and your legal team. My goodness.
I'm glad you included the legal team, Allison, because Brendan Ballou and Sam Ward Packard at the Public Integrity Project deserve all the accolades here. Some really fierce, brilliant, thinking outside of the box strategy coming from my legal team. And I'm just so excited, right? I mean, the lawyer in me is geeking out from the quality of the order that we got from Judge Sullivan and tackling all of the big legal issues that are contained in my lawsuit. And then there's just the human part of me that says, look, we can fight. We can fight and we can win, right? We can stand up and speak out for people that need help and that need our allyship and our advocacy. And so it really is it's a good day, right? And I know that we take our wins where we can get them, especially how dark things have been for, 10 years now.
Yeah, and to address some of those concerns people commenting on and either here or on social